person's a person, no matter how small.
That's my code, my motto.
This week on At the Movies with Ebert and Roeper, Jim Carrey and Steve Carell try to save Whoville in Horton Hears a Who.
Why don't you just kill us?
You shouldn't forget the importance of entertainment.
Naomi Watts and Tim Roth are victims in more ways than one of funny games.
And is it possible that anyone in the world actually likes 10,000 BC?
It's not just you, Jake. Everyone has their fight.
Banana in the hole! Come on, guys, we're all mammals!
I feel the diplomatic process is beginning to break down.
Can Hollywood finally get it right when it comes to Dr. Seuss? I'm Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Richard Roeper. All right, you go first, and then I'll let you know how you did.
Okay, thank you so much. Our first movie is the newest feature film taken from the work of a great American humorist, Theodore Geisel, better known to millions of fans of Yertle the Turtle and the Star-Bellied Sneetches as Dr. Seuss. Horton Hears a Who retells a fable about a sweet-natured elephant living in the jungle of Newell. One day, Horton hears a tiny yelp from a speck that happens to be floating dangerously near the water. On that speck sits the town of Whoville, and it needs protection. Jim Carrey's more restrained than usual as the voice of Horton, despite the odd Henry Kissinger impression. And here he sends the mayor of Whoville the latest travel update.
Are we at that safe place yet?
Almost. I'm pretty sure the worst part's over. This is your elephant speaking. Just sit back, enjoy the ride, and we'll have you to Mount Newell in no time.
That's Steve Carell as the mayor, who wants to prove to his family, the town elders, and himself that he can lead in a crisis. But how?
Look at your face. And I bet you don't look so good with a stapler in your head. Yeah! Whoa! Whoa!
Throughout the story, Horton's beset by monkeys, a menacing Slavic buzzard, and a sniffy kangaroo voiced by Carol Burnett.
If you can't see, hear, or feel something, it doesn't exist. And believing in tiny, imaginary people is just not something we do or tolerate.
Now, I'll say this for Horton Hears a Who. It is the best of the feature-length Dr. Seuss adaptations we've had so far. On the other hand, it's up against the live-action versions of How the Grinch Stole Christmas and The Cat in the Hat. The computer-generated animation is all right, but the script stretches a 60-page storybook out to almost 90 minutes of too much mayhem, not enough heart, at least for me. Younger audiences might miss the message about sticking up for the little guy altogether. One of these days, Richard, if we ever get a Dr. Seuss film half as terrific as the original story, it'll be something to see. This one, I would say, is a renter at best.
I'm right with you on this one, Michael. I liked it a little bit when I saw it, but as the days went on, my affection diminished instead of growing for this film. For a lot of the reasons you mentioned. I mean, first of all, it's probably not a feature-length movie. And the two movies you mentioned, the Grinch adaptation and the Cat in the Hat, you're right, absolute crap. This is just,
yes.
You know, kind of okay. The animation's okay. I didn't like Jim Carrey. I thought he was a distraction.
Oh, really?
As Horton. There's too much of the shtickle there from him, and I would have liked a little. It didn't feel like the Horton that we know from the storybook. It felt like Jim Carrey's going to do his Robin Williams type thing, where they kind of hijacked the film.
I wouldn't blame Carrey, though. I think the voice cast is really not the issue here. I mean, this script is from the team that brought us College Road Trip, so we're not talking about any kind of charm or wit or anything. And I just think, look, I'm not so much of a purist that it has to be just like the book, because if it were just like the book, it would be like the 1966 Grinch TV special, which I adore, and that happened to be 26 minutes long. Perfect. Now, if you make a feature, you have to stretch it out. But
right. I think it feels stretched out, and I think maybe someone can take the three stories we mentioned and do a 90-minute film with each story getting about 30 minutes with some better animation, and that might be something worth seeing.
Star-bellied Sneetches, man.
All right. Thank you very much. Gesundheit. All right. Our next movie is Never Back Down. It has no soul, nothing original to say, and it glorifies brawling. And yet I'm recommending it. I laughed so much at the litany of cliches here that I finally had to admit I was being entertained from start to finish by this cheesy knockoff. This film is assembled from various parts of Fight Club, 8 Mile, Step Up, Footloose, The Karate Kid. There might be some Citizen Kane in there, and about a dozen other films. Tom Cruise lookalike Sean Ferris plays Jake Taylor.
You're so set on hurting people, you just hurt yourself. Easy,
So this is my fault, huh?
Yes, it is your responsibility to control the outcome. Okay, show me your way.
And that's Jaimin Hansu in the Mr. Miyagi role as the mysterious and wise mixed martial arts teacher. Amber Heard plays the hilariously named Baja Miller. Cam Gigande plays the obligatory sadistic bully. He's not impressed by Jake's growing rep.
You think you can make it through the beatdown? I have. Won the whole tournament. Twice. That's where we'll get it on. That's where this ends. Not impressed.
Did I mention he's not impressed? Director Jeff Wadlow likes playing with the handheld cameras and the fast motion moves. He also gives us multiple montages that are so hokey you wonder if we're supposed to be laughing. There's no commentary here on high school kids getting off on bloody street fights. No attempt by the adults to step in. Every kid in town is either a fighter or a bloodthirsty voyeur. But at least Never Back Down isn't hypocritical about its mission, its mindless action, and as such, I enjoyed it.
The hell it isn't hypocritical. Wait, this film, in between the 9,000 fights and the kicks to the face, you get these little speeches from Hansu saying, you know, violence is not the answer. And it's like, the hell it isn't.
Yeah, but
like
then sometimes you have to fight to walk away from fighting. I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really
do you fight first and then walk? Or I don't understand it.
I don't know. I don't care.
This is the most bloodthirsty movie I've seen since Walking Tall. But I don't think this thing is worth recommending for any reason. I just think it's it's like the OC in Walking Tall. That's what it is.
That's why I enjoyed it. I mean, you know, come on. You weren't entertained by all that mixed martial arts stuff and like that kid that played the villain. He's got kind of like the Brad Pitt thing going on.
I'm a lover, not a fighter, man. I'm not. No, I think this thing, it's all flash and technique. And
yes, it is.
Nobody's looking for anything else. And I'm not sure if you're really following the right line there when you say, well, maybe it's supposed to be lousy and funny and campy, but I enjoyed it. I don't know. Does the movie really set out to be that way?
I don't think this movie was setting out to be an Oscar winner. I think, you know, they said, look, we got this.
It's a Golden Globe winner.
We got all these kids getting, this footage on YouTube. We got the mixed martial arts thing, which is kind of, the UFC is really big right now. We got this great looking cast. We got some fun music, and we got some nifty camera moves. Let's have a party.
Yeah, I'd see that movie. This wasn't it.
All right, just a reminder to go to @themoviestv.com, where you can watch more than 20 years of movie reviews, and now you can leave viewer feedback as well.
Oh, cool. And coming up next, Richard and I pick apart the cruelly misunderstood 10,000 BC.
When the sun rises, we will join our brothers and sisters on the mountain of the god and convince them to fight with us, together, as one!
Folks, as sure as a higher power gave Richard a slight case of laryngitis last week for interrupting his guest co-host once too often, that same supreme being is going to make me pay for enjoying 10,000 BC. It's the latest from Schlockmeister Roland Emmerich, starring Stephen Strait as a dreadlocked warrior who looks like he stepped off a magazine cover, the magazine being Saber-Toothed Tiger Beat. That's a joke, actually. The kid's gotta save his tribe from extinction, giant prehistoric birds, Omar Sharif's narration, and rampaging mammoths. Wow. That's a pretty big mammoth there. Our hero, Sweetie, played by Camilla Bell, has the most carefully tweezed eyebrows in all of 10,000 BC land. She's captured by slave-gathering goons and schlepped off to a vast, digitally animated construction site very into the pyramid motif. Time for a slave revolt and a mammoth revolt. Now, according to the movie website RottenTomatoes.com, only 7% of the nation's reviewers recommended 10,000 BC. That means nearly twice as many critics preferred College Road Trip. What can I say? It's like an insane mashup between Ice Age 2 and Apocalypto, two movies that aren't really as much fun as this one, I say. It's about 10,000 pounds of cheese on a cracker, and Richard, now and then, know what I'm in the mood for? 10,000 pounds of cheese on a cracker.
Wow, that's
amazing. What it is. It's my Never Back Down, okay?
Well, you know what? Never Back Down is no country for old men compared to this piece of garbage. And I believe the other critics who gave this positive reviews were doing so with crayons while their juice boxes were next to them there. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. I understand.
Are you truly glad?
Yes, because somebody should have enjoyed it. And I do understand what you're saying. It's so cheesy. I mean, there's absolutely no attempt for historical accuracy. In fact, at one point I thought,
I don't know what you're talking about. I think this thing is on the money.
I thought we were going to see some of these cavemen like in Pintos driving across the Great Plains, and they were building. I think they're building Las Vegas, aren't they? Actually,
right. It's the Luxor Hotel. So, yeah, absolutely.
But Michael, the special effects are horrible. The acting is laughable. Camilla Bell apparently, invented eyeliner.
There's a lot of eyeliner. When she cries at the end, there's a lot of eyeliner.
It really almost plays like a Mel Brooks parody, and it's not trying to be that much of a parody.
You know what?
Or an in joke.
Look,
it's just just dreadful with the giant tigers and the cheap special effects, and you know, these tribes. Some of them speak English and some of them speak, you know, other languages. Right. And there's a lot of that thing where one guy, you know, gives a little speech and then I'll go woo 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 woo.
Look, I refuse it. It's just horrible. Look, you can call it a guilty pleasure, but you know, I know no guilt on this one, and I think your last guilty pleasure on this show was the other Boleyn girl, and for me, what would you rather see tonight again? You know?
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
10,000 BC. If I had to see it again, I might have to surrender this throne.
Now, look, if I'm going to see a cat fight, I want a saber-toothed tiger cat fight.
It's a horrible movie, and I'm going to hold you to this positive recommendation. I'm ready the rest of your career.
The mighty 7%. Later in the show, Val Kilmer is a man on a mission of revenge and conspiracy, but you're not going to see it in theaters. We've got our direct-to-DVD review.
And speaking of critical reaction, a lot of critics embraced a film that I think is maybe the worst movie of the year.
Anne can decide who's up next and with which device. Which do you prefer? The little knife or the big gun?
If there's one movie from 2008 you should avoid at all costs, that movie would be Funny Games. The fact that it features fine performances, talented direction, and some moments of genuine suspense only makes the end product that much more grotesque and appalling. Naomi Watts and Tim Roth play a wealthy couple with a strong marriage and an adoring young son. They've just arrived at their weekend lake house when trouble comes knocking.
He asked for the eggs, the dog attacked him, they broke. Now he would like some more. What is so difficult to understand?
You better watch your tone, young man.
You better be careful, old man, or I'll break your eggs.
Now, please leave. Right now.
Mr. Farber.
What?
Michael Pitt and Brady Corbett play the two creeps in white that terrorize this family in repeated psychological and physical fashion. That's pretty much what most of this film is about.
We're gonna make a bet now. You bet that you'll be alive tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and we bet that you'll be dead.
Funny Games has some self-indulgent touches, as when Pitt addresses the audience directly. But to what end? Are we supposed to consider this some kind of performance art, some kind of commentary on the nature of violence in the movies? You know what? By the end, I didn't care. I felt as if a gifted director and some fine actors had put on a little show for their amusement, for my discomfort. It's an ugly and pretentious film. It offers no new insight into the psychopathic mind. Artsy garbage, Michael, is still garbage.
Well, I think it's a date movie, Richard, as long as you're dating Charles Manson or Squeaky Fromm or something like that.
Lovely.
It's tough going. I think what really is heartbreaking about it is that the original film is actually, in its own perverse way, works, I think. And I think it's actually, it's grueling as hell, but it's a serious effort. And something about this one feels like karaoke. It's the guy remaking the original in this shot-by-shot, almost shot-by-shot, you know, really kind of turgid way. And, you know, no one takes this kind of thing. Naomi Watts certainly didn't take this kind of role just because she would think it would be, what, a new career change for her?
Well,
I don't really believes in this
I think she's listed as a producer as well, so obviously she believes in this material. But, Michael, I just feel like the material is just dead on arrival. And, you know, I'm fine with material that's dark, and you know, I remember when I saw Seven, the David Fincher film, and at first I thought, my God, this is such a relentlessly grim film. But it's really well made, and it's interesting, and it's dark, and it has something to say. This thing, I don't think it has anything to say.
I don't think Seven's got anything to say, but I think it's very stylish, and it's an effective suspense piece. And yeah, I mean, like it or not, and I don't like it either, Richard, I think Haneke, the director of this thing, is trying to critique those movies like Seven or like any the Quentin Tarantino stuff, and look, I don't want to pay necessarily the $10 to hear one guy's critique of the violence in the media issue, unless he's coming up with a good movie that holds on its own,
you know,
which this does not.
I think some people are going to say, oh, this is brave and this is daring, and I found it incredibly predictable. I knew exactly what was going to happen. It was pretty obvious that, okay, we're not going to go with the conventional thriller thing. We're going to just ride this all the way to the end.
Deconstruct it as you go, right? Yeah, making comments. Yeah, I know.
What?
Yeah, I know.
So what?
You want to see a better movie from the same director, See Cachet with Julia Binoche and Denis Auteuil. Very good. Okay. Now, for the world's most unlikely double bill. One is from a high-profile director, the other stars a well-known actor, and you can watch both at home. The good one is called Paranoid Park, which is in theaters and available on demand. It comes from writer-director Gus Van Sant, who's had his share of mainstream success with Good Will Hunting and Finding Forrester. Lately, he's been working in a more experimental vein, and the title Paranoid Park refers to a skateboarding park in Portland, Oregon, where the main character, teenage Alex, gets away from his troubled home life. We soon learn Alex has been involved in a horrific accident at a nearby rail yard.
So you went to Paranoid Park?
No.
You did not? Okay. Where did you go?
I didn't want to go to the park by myself, so I didn't.
Yeah, no one wants to go to the Paranoid by themselves, man. That place is scary.
I found Paranoid Park more intriguing than just about anything Van Sant's made lately, and unlike some of his other films featuring non-actors, like this one does, this one isn't just a lot of pretty pictures. The picture is small, but it's very rich. Now, I can't say the same for our next movie, the direct-to-DVD Val Kilmer revenge picture, Conspiracy. It's small and very dumb. Kilmer plays an Iraq War veteran, a Marine, who's got to clean up a New Mexico town full of murderous super patriots, including Mr. Big, played by Gary Cole, who runs a Halliburton-type company. Here, Kilmer takes on a bad guy in one of the silliest fight scenes ever committed to celluloid.
You gonna fight?
Kilmer and Cole give it a shot, but there's only so much an actor can do when he's working outdoors on a set that's less convincing than the fake Western town in Blazing Saddles. So, skip Conspiracy on DVD, but I say see Paranoid Park either in theaters or on demand.
So while I'm right with you on Conspiracy, I mean, it exists in some sort of... I guess they were maybe trying to do a Western, like Pale Rider meets High Noon or something, but I mean, it's
yeah, but
just,
on a buck 380 budget,
beyond
too,
dreadful.
Yeah.
It's beyond dreadful. It's jaw-droppingly bad.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just horrible.
Yeah.
But I'm going to disagree with you on Paranoid Park, Michael. I thought... I like Gus Van Sant a lot. I liked movies like Elephant. I thought was a really strong film. One of his
that's
more
not nearly as good
experimental
as this
films.
one. No.
Yet another movie about misunderstood teenage skateboarders, and we get the hand jiggle camera, and we get the hipster music, and I feel like we've seen this all before. And I really, you know, what movies about these kind of misunderstood teens who are walking the streets, and their parents are not involved, and they get into trouble.
You're making it sound like an after-school special, and he's not working in that.
It's not an after-school special. It's indie on top of indie on top of indie filmmaking that we've seen before.
Look, to me, I have been real frustrated with Van Sant's films lately, unlike yourself, but I think this one, it actually, all the style he's working for comes together.
Dull and dreadful.
Oh!
All right, coming up next, 3 of last year's biggest movies come to DVD in our video segment. But first, here's a look at some of the movies we'll be reviewing over the next few weeks.
You were only as good to me as the money you make.
I have made you so much more than what I just lost.
The real story is the matchup between the Bullet and teammate Dodge Connolly.
This week's video segment is brought to you by Raisinets. Make a deliciously smart choice with Raisinets.
The future is just like you imagine.
All right, looking at movies new on DVD, I thought Southland Tales was one of the worst movies of 2007. Not a fan of August Rush, but I did give a mild recommendation to Love in the Time of Cholera. 2 better movies that I'm recommending, though, Michael. I Am Legend and Enchanted. Of course, Amy Adams was so wonderful in Enchanted. And I Am Legend just solidifies, I think, Will Smith's standing as possibly the biggest star in the world. Let's take a look at the clip.
Let me save you!
And though I am recommending I Am Legend on DVD, this is really annoying. There are certain special features that you can only access by going on your computer with the disc, which I think is just incredibly stupid. Don't make us work for it.
That's right, but they're both good films. Yeah.
Yes.
Atonement didn't have a chance at this year's Oscars against Javier Bardem's Stun Gun, but it's a stronger piece than a lot of folks gave it credit for, I think. Adapted from Ian McEwan's novel, the story begins in the summer of 1935 in an English manor home thick with sexual humidity. Keira Knightley and James McAvoy play the star-crossed lovers. The woman's younger sister intercepts a dangerously intimate letter, and pretty soon everyone's lives are changed forever. That first hour of Atonement is nearly perfectly made, though as it enters wartime, the story gets a little softer and more conventionally epic. But then comes a cameo from Vanessa Redgrave, and it's the sharpest 5 minutes of acting overlooked by the Oscars this year. She is great in it.
It's a very good film. I didn't think it deserved a Best Picture nomination, but I thought McAvoy and Keira Knightley were strong, and some great camera work as well. Good direction from Joe Wright.
Yeah, Joe Wright, very good director.
All right, so I Am Legend, Enchanted, and Atonement will be in stores on Tuesday, and we'll be back with my picks for 3 to see, the best 3 movies in theaters, right after this.
Closed captioning for Ebert and Roeper is sponsored by...
Man has evolved to the point where he no longer needs to stand in line for tickets. The MovieTickets.card, available only at MovieTickets.com.
Now it's time for 3 to See, a countdown of the 3 best films in theaters. At number 3, I have the cheeky, smart, and surprising heist film, The Bank Job. This is maybe Jason Statham's best performance. Kate Beckinsale and Juno's Olivia Thirlby are among the standouts in a first-rate ensemble cast, and David Gordon Green's poetic and heartbreaking Snow Angels. And of the dozens and dozens of films I've seen in 2008 so far, my favorite remains the dark comedy In Bruges, the best hitman buddy movie since Pulp Fiction. It's in limited release, so you have to look for it. And, of course, we'll let you know when it's available on DVD.
I think that director of In Bruges, the writer-director Martin McDonagh, is going to have a major film career.
I agree.
He's a great player.
Oscars in his future.
Oscars in his future,
I believe it. All right, that's it for this week. Until next week, the balcony's closed.